we're going to get started, only because this is one of those 25-minute sessions. This is going to be a quick dash and dirty. We're going to go through some stuff, but it's going to be pretty simple, right? Thank you to the sponsors. That's what you got to do, the obligatory thank you to the sponsors, right? Who am I? I'm a PowerShell junkie. I work in the end user compute space, do now cloud automation, a bunch of stuff. I also run a Research Triangle PowerShell user group. You also see me doing a bunch of stuff, and a Microsoft MVP and part-time hiker. So if you see me on Slack, I'm the one who's doing wild adventures in the mornings. All right, what are we going to talk about? Basically, what is PowerCLI? Extracting data from your VMware environment. We're going to analyze some of that data, and then we're going to do some just quick examples of what some reporting and visualization is at that point. PowerCLI, it is the PowerShell module that controls all of VMware itself. So connect to your vSAN, connect to your ESXi environment, and VMs themselves at the rawest core, right? And so this is the interface back to that. And so all the power of PowerShell into your VMware environment, right? So we're going to quickly talk about what most people see. If you look at a bunch of your code, everything is get VM, do this to your VMs and stuff like that, get VM host. But there's also this thing called get view. And I want to point that out strictly. So view gives you some information, and which is like in the API. If you look at the API and the SDK, view is how you access that data. And if you use VM, that's kind of the legacy environment, but that's still stable and what everybody basically uses and interfacing directly with those components, right? And so we're going to do some stuff, right? So we quickly talked about the module itself, where to get it. I don't think we need to go through that. We're going to jump through a bunch of hoops. But if you guys have any questions at this point, stop me and we're going to go through some stuff. You're going to see some funky stuff, and we will go from there. It's a ton of commandlets in all the different modules, but ultimately everything lives inside of the core itself and broken up into a bunch of stuff, straight up like that. Connecting. If you're here, you probably understand most of this stuff, but I wanted to just primer at this point. There is a structure, and I find that most people just, hey, connect to one vCenter. But there is this thing where you can connect to multiple. You can just iterate list through them all. You can pass in your implied credentials. Or this is what I actually do, is you set it in the default parameters. And so I use an administrative account. I store the credentials in a local key store, and then whenever I connect to anything vCenter, it automatically connects for me. So if you're not doing it, you should be doing it. There is a menu option, and then there's also, hey, you can connect to everything. You connect to one vCenter, and then it will connect you to all the others using that same credential. So it's just one of those things that's there. So we're also going to quickly talk about get view in this point. Now, if you understand PowerShell, you're going to see this kind of thing. Why are we doing this other kind of stuff? In a demo like this, it's really hard to actually connect to a real environment. So I ran a couple other stuff, and what you see here is what I've extracted and sanitized, because that is a real VM in my production work environment, but sanitized out so you don't see all the other stuff. Hey, this belongs to domain.org, right? So to that point, but it's this fun thing, and I can interact directly with it. So there's some extra stuff you're going to kind of see, but know that that's where we can go from there. So why are we having this conversation just about view itself? This is what you typically get from it. So you have this construct of what most people see, power state, what host it's working on, and such, what resource group. These are working objects that we can work with, right? So I want to say, we're going to, hey, right? We can get data from it. But the reason where I am talking at this is that we can use the simple stuff we're working on. If you're using PowerShell, except, I was to get more. More is the one I was looking for. So what is also unique about some of the environments that we work with is that it understands the whole of passing multiple things to this stage. So I could say, go get me this VMware host, and go get me all the data stores on it, and whatever data stores happen to be connected to it. And so typically what I've seen some previous people do is like, oh, just give me all the data stores and then doing all this other stuff in the background on top of it. You shouldn't be doing that kind of work, right? And so this is all the data stores that are connected, right? Oh, it just right off the screen. You know what, let's do this for a table. When I did that demo before, let's put it into a table. There we go. right? So those are all the data stores that are connected to that machine, that point, right? Or just give me all the VM hosts. Oh, yeah, that doesn't work because it's not connected. Let's actually just do the variable. Why did I do this? EX. There we go. All data stores. I don't know. We'll keep going because we don't need to go to that stage. So let's talk about view. So get VM host, all of those things. That's all the environment. So if we use view, this is an API view of the interfaces themselves, right? And so we can say, I want to view a VMware view, a VM machine view of the entire environment itself. And so when it does the query, so we can actually say, hey, where's the filter? The name happens to be, this name, right? And that's what we get back. So it's similar to what we got VM, but different properties. We have config. As you saw, I was trying to find config. It's in view, not for VM itself. You have layout, you have other stuff, and you can get to the individual components from the storage of the VM, right? And so why is that kind of necessary? This doesn't look so easy because you have to dynamically create this filter. You could effectively just go get me the VM, and then you get a view from it. And I think I put it in here before. So here is all the types you can do from there. No, actually that's what it was. So if we click on that guy, come on, open. No. Get view is faster at scale, and that's kind of where we're going to work at this point. I say at scale, right? And so what I mean by at scale is what you would typically do, or if you want to do it at scale, is you can build the parameters that are defined. There's the view type, what we want. Creating a hash table here. So creating a quick hash table, and there's my view type. There's the filter, and then, hey, what properties do we want to get? Again, we took from here, we created this parameter called properties. We only want the name. We want the summary. Hey, that's what we had back down here, right? Go give me the storage and the committed. So what we get back from this, what the heck? Did I mess this up? No, init. No. It's just one of these things where, let's run this guy again. Name. Already exists. All right, yeah, already exists. I don't know what's wrong with this one. All right. Yeah, it won't get me what I'm looking for. Name filter. Something happened with my, oh, it's pulling from the wrong one? Oh, when I reran this again to write it out, I think I wrote it to the wrong folder. So, VMware view. Import CLI XML. View. VM view. That's the one I want. Yeah, there it is. All right, so we're gonna out variable VM view. We'll just do it that way. All right, so what's inside VM view now? Right? Do not format table. You know what? Let's just do that. Upgrade view. I'm gonna play. So this is what we get back. That's why we're getting a bunch of other stuff. But it is, you get the parameter, then inside of the property itself, you know what? Let's go down. Now we're going off script. This is gonna be fun. Right? So VM view. Summary, storage, committed. And we just do it that way. Committed, not compared to. Man, it's not working out for me. All right, we're going to keep going. So what do we get from here? Let's see what we get. We got the object. You know what? Let's see if we get this. Yeah. Maybe it gave us out. Maybe when I pulled it back, something happened with that probably. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. All right. So talked about views at that point, right? So I guess the other thing is that when you're getting a bunch of stuff, can't really show it at this point. Most people log into vCenter itself and are working in the GUI and, hey, I want to look at some monitoring at that point, and you get the monitoring dialog and all the messages. Well, that's actually visible here too, right? So you can go get me the VM and go get me the stats on that VM. Where's my stats? So that's where we're going to go at this point. So get VM is just easier, just because it's nice and prettier, and go get me the common stats. And what are we going to get? We got this thing of, hey, there's a system uptime. Scroll, 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 scroll. Network CPU. Hey, all of those normal, dialogues that you normally see. And so you have the actual data over the period in which we ask it for. So actually, we're going to say get stat. So this is what you can also get. The entity itself is the item that you're actually getting, the common, which we already asked for, but you can say, just give me the memory utilization. Go get me the CPU utilization. What's also what I really like is the start and finish time. So that's an easy thing to do, right? So you can get it in the raw form. And max samples, how often do you want that iteration? You could say, give me the amortized version over once an hour, right? For the past 20 hours, right? That is possible to do, right? So interval in minutes, so that's your split, but then how many samples do you want over that time? And so that data is already in vCenter itself. And so you can get that data out, right? So we're going to keep going because we only have a short amount of time. One of the biggest things that a lot of other people do, and at least the VMware admins that I've had to work with, is this idea of oh, how do I get all this data out? And the why I bring this one up is get VI events is a critical thing for understanding your environment overall. Hey, when things are vMotioning all over the place, we've actually had multiple times, hey, when a purple screen happens, what machines just evacuated from this host? I don't know, we gotta go figure it out. Well, just go get me the events of everybody over the past 10 minutes, and I can tell you where everybody moved, right? And this guy evacuated to that machine. And so using get VI events, how many samples do you get? And we'll go from there. So this is gonna be all events. We don't want it all. Oh, crap. There, stop. But similar to this point, here's all the VMs, and what did they do? So we can kind of scroll over really quickly. Where's the description? Hey, here's the machine. Hey, we're taking snapshots of the machines. This is our machines are running at that point. And hey, there's the ES hoax. This guy was reconfigured. I don't really care that you say we have our data center in Richmond. But hey, this is Veeam taking backups. You can see when backups were taking, who's working at that point, how often it was done, and actually, who's working on machines, if somebody's actually in the interface doing it at that point. So you want to be able to extract this kind of data and get it back in the form that you want. So, but it's also, we're not going to actually do it, but it's just an object at this point. You can do a bunch of where objects and stuff like that, right? And so we're going to kind of get to that stage at that point. This code will all be on GitHub so at that point. So what can you do with this information, right? So now we're extracting more data. We talked about getting events itself, right? So now let's try to work with some of that data. Hey, I have some data. Now let's do some filtering. Let's do some work with that. And so analyze the data at that point, right? And, right? So get VM. We're going to get a snapshot. Okay, so go get me, and there's no filter at this point, so get me all the VMs. This thing's going to run for a little while, right? It did run for a while, right? And they'll go get me the snapshots, go get me the snap of every single machine. I also do, and in the middle, output variable. So I stick all of the snapshots that are ever across the entire environment, put it in a variable, and then I keep on going. Go give me the last 30 of them, and then I do some selecting out at the end. So give me the first 30, select out just the name properties on what you get, and let's see what kind of snaps we got. Hey, these are the people who were doing snaps at that time, right? How old the snap was, how big the snap is. Maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, don't know, or we don't really care, right? I didn't actually, into this data is also, it doesn't tell you who created the snap, but you could just as well, what I've done before, is I know when the snap was taken, and I know how to get VI events, I can then correlate that piece together, right? And because it's a recorded session, we're not gonna do that data, right? But to this point is that it's just as easy to put this data together and just put it together, right? And so those are other scripts and automation that it is. But the idea is that I can go get a bunch of information and I can then parse it down and find the pieces I'm just looking for. One of the other big ones that we do all the time is, hey, who needs VMware tools update, right? You got to go through this process. We got to update your VM tools. This is what we need to do, right? Similar, all we need to do is go give me all the VMs. Go give me all the VMs. Actually, we're doing a filter on the VMs. Get a view of them, right? And then the reason I chose view at this point is that we just access the data in a different form. So hopefully, hey, and there's something wrong with this one too. Yeah, there's something wrong with this one too. It's not going to give me what I'm looking for. Whether it's on or off, basically tells you. Whether it's pending, so you'll have a bunch of states for VMware tools updates, whether it's okay, whether it's pending, or whether it's just not even there, right? And that's also the case too. Yeah, maybe this has it. Oh, yeah, so this is actually doing work on top of it. This is the one where I'm doing work. So what are we doing here? It says at the top, go give me all the VMs. Go give me all the VMs, right? Where the machine's powered on. So it's going to tell you that VMware Tools is not working if the machine's off because it's not running, right? It's kind of stupid that way, but it works that way, right? So we're then going to use this thing called the constructed properties. We're going to create our properties from other objects. So I'm going to call it VM, stick the VM itself, then VMware Tools, and we get out objects from there, right? And once we have the list of objects, and if you're not also doing this, another kind of free tip here is that, hey, I can send it out to the output and then throw it, it's like out variable, but in a full commandlet, if you're not aware. But then there's also a commandlet called update tools. So just go throw on, kick off a job from ESXi that will start those machines up again. Yeah, got a couple more minutes. All right. So now we're going to go to reporting. I don't know if this is going to work because I don't think the variable is all messed up. What do we get? Yep, we basically get the representation. So ultimately, this is now taking the data that we typically live inside the console, we currently live in that form, and then how do we then report upon it, right? Import Excel, phenomenal module, just dumps it into a form that gives it stuff for free. You see me out here, throw it into a table. It's in a document, right? 90% of people are working with PowerShell object trying to really, give me that data, all right? Out to a CSV, well, then I can't really consume a CSV. I have to do a bunch of formatting. No, man, not for me. I'm always throwing it into Excel, and I'm always giving it a format. So this is kind of that exact same thing, and we should be able to see this one. This should be fun, right? So we got the stats from that VM a while ago, or a couple of minutes ago, right? So all the stats for that Windows 11 VDI. So we're going to run this one. And it is dynamically creating an Excel document based upon it, and all of the individual parameter sets, not parameter sets, but the performance statistics are broken down into the forms. And because it's all done, they're all in different forms of styles, actually, styles of there. So you can come from here, you can then create charts at this point. You can do a bunch of chart formatting. You can put in whatever the format you want to go at that point. I wasn't really, keen on Excel fun, but that is one of your values at this point. We're going to run right up against time here for 3 o'clock. Okay, so what do we do at that point, right? There's a bunch of, once we have that data, you can then rely upon the community itself. You can roll your own. You can do some Excel modules, Excel playing, or you can use some of the other stuff that's out there. We won't go through the whole idea for vCheck. Alan Renouf, who used to work for VMware at some point, I don't know if he's probably still there. He wrote a module called vCheck that will audit the environment, and it is plugin based. So hey, here's all the checks for VM hosts, and it will then report upon that information. And it's designed to, if it reports information, it's a bad thing. So I actually use it internally, but it's not so much for give me the stuff that I need to know about. It's just like it's an audit log, right? Go tell me where all this is, how much space is this, that kind of stuff, right? There's also another tool out there called As Built, which is, I also like As Built, and we're actually going to go quickly look at As Built because I'm going to run it up against it, and it should be fun. Let's go look at what an As Built report looks like. Hey, you can then run As Built in your environment, and this is actually in that environment. And hey, go tell me this will then give you this nice sanitized view report that you can then hand off to leadership, to executive information. And hey, what are we doing? List all the roles that are in the environment, right? What tags are we using? What resources are currently consuming in that form? And it's in this nice Excel, not even Excel, Word document that people can use, right? This module itself, As Built, will also support, writing it out to a PDF, the exact same format. It just dumps it out into that form. And you can actually generate those documents in that form. It uses Scribble to generate that, but then you can just roll your own at that point. So it uses config files to generate those data. Yeah, mycompany.com. And I am actually out of time. So that is a quick and dirty version of how to use PowerCLI, how to get the data out, and how to show some data in report form. Thank you very much.